time for the Big Ten Conference and the Ohio State University, and just so excited about our future. It's just phenomenal. We will do our best to answer any questions you have. Obviously, there's a lot of details to be worked out, but I do want to apologize to those of you who reached out to me over the last 24 hours or so, and I didn't respond, obviously, for confidential and legal reasons, so I apologize to you. But we're fortunate to have our president here today, and I want to thank her and any other presidents in the Big Ten Conference. They've been on this journey, and last night they affirmatively and unanimously voted to accept the application of USC and UCLA into the Big Ten Conference effective 2024. But you guys know, everyone knows here, that we're blessed to have Dr. Johnson as our president and our leader, because she gets it, and she's been significantly involved in this process from the very beginning, and helped us move the ball over the goal line. So I want to have her share a few words, and then we will come back. I'll come back up, and we'll answer what questions we can answer for you. So, President Johnson.
Well, good morning. Obviously, a few things have happened over the last 24 hours, and just want to say that we're very excited about the opportunities for our Ohio State University student athletes. UCLA and USC, we share a lot in common. We have a very similar academic culture. We're committed to the opportunities for our students to compete at a very high level among a number of different sports. We're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion, and also sustainable athletic programs. You know, California is home to 25,000 Buckeyes. It's the largest place in the country for Buckeyes, so I'm excited about that. I also want to say something about UCLA and USC in terms of being AAU institutions. You know, something that isn't often talked about at Ohio State and about Ohio State is that we are actually one of the largest research institutions in the country. We reported $1.24 billion in research expenditures, and we set a goal to double that over in this decade, which will put us among the very upper universities in the country. UCLA and USC share that. They share that mission as well, and so I think this is going to bring us closer together and a lot of synergies with the Big Ten and UCLA and USC. So I'm excited about the opportunity, and thank you for being here.
All right, we'll open it up to questions. We'll start with Rob Oliver in the front of this section.
Hey, can you talk us through the timeline of when this, when you became aware of this, and sort of how it came together from your vantage point?
Yeah, the UCLA and USC formally submitted applications yesterday morning, and Kevin Warren called a conference call immediately for our presidents to review the application and consider the criteria that we've historically used to determine if we want to ultimately approve bringing someone in the league. Obviously, there's been overtures over time from different schools about the Big Ten. So I can't tell you exactly, a month or a date or anything of that nature, but during our media rights negotiations, there's been some interest by a number of schools, including them, just queries. And so it really hit yesterday when we actually formally got those applications.
A little close to your mic.
I'm sorry, apologize for that.
We'll go in the front row to Officer Wood.
Gene, I hate to immediately move past USC and UCLA to the future, but do you believe that this is it? That that's the only two that need to be added? They just seem like they're out there on an island. That would be perhaps difficult and logistically challenging for them in the league. They're out there by themselves. Do you think there will be more teams added to the Big Ten? And what does this move mean for the future of college athletics?
Yeah, I think obviously we're in an unbelievable, crazy time with college athletics, and the many moving parts and things to be decided. I wish I had a crystal ball, Austin. I really do. If you asked me this question in March of this year, I wouldn't, been able to project it. So I don't know. I really don't. Obviously, the landscape will continue to change, and who knows how. But We're really happy with this. Geographically, it seems really challenging, logistically. But when you think about it, we have a number of Olympic sports that already compete in LA or compete in Washington or compete in Texas, so they go those long distances. And the flights from Columbus to Chicago or to LA are really outstanding. So it might be more challenging for other schools in the league, but we think we can work those out. So at this point in time, to your point, your main question, I just can't speculate on that.
All right, we'll go in the front row here, Bill Rivera, Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, for Dr. Johnson, when you went to Stanford, you can probably, you understand the Pac-12 very well. You know, do you think this is the end of the Pac-12 as we know it, or what will be from here? Just kind of your thoughts on the fact that there is another sort of domino being set off.
Well, I think as our athletic director said, it's a little early to speculate. I'd be surprised if this was the last move that's made nationally, but I think it's too early to tell right now.
What's your personal thoughts on the Pac-12 person?
Well, I was, as you said, an athlete at Stanford, and I really appreciated that opportunity, which is why I'm so passionate about the opportunities we have here at Ohio State. 36 sports and 1,000 athletes. So when we think about what those students get, I'm excited about the opportunity to have another venue for them to compete in nationally and great programs.
Go to the second row right, Bill Landis from The Athletic.
I suppose either of you could answer this. I'm just wondering about the appetite in the conference for expansion as a response, I suppose, to the SEC expanding. You look at the league and how they were consolidating power. I'm sure the Big Ten wants to be involved in shaping the future of college football as much as they do. How necessary was something like this to position the Big Ten to do that?
Yeah, really, Bill, great question. But we weren't doing it in response to the SEC. We were doing it for our needs. And obviously, we're in a situation now where Kevin's done a marvelous job in facilitating discussions with our television partners. And so this helps move the needle in that regard. So it had nothing to do with Texas and Oklahoma or us setting up mega conferences for the future. It was about what did the Big Ten need, and our marketing and media rights opportunities, along with the great relationship that we have with two institutions that culturally fit us, was just too good to pass up. So it's more about those things than it was about trying to compare to the SEC and moving forward. Certainly, it sets us up for the future with the CFP and whatever emerges in that landscape. Those outcomes are real. Certainly, it aligns us more with the SEC. That's an outcome, but that wasn't a driving force, if that answers your question.
All right, we'll go to the third row middle, Nathan Baird, Cleveland.com.
For either of you, it's about 10 months ago that the commissioners for the three conferences in the alliance were discussing one thing and kind of the common thought that they all had and how that was supposed to work. And I think some months later, Gene came in and we're kind of talking about some of those same subjects. When did that change? Because it seems like there has been a change there, and can that is there enough trust for something like that to go forward now? From I guess just from your perspective, from the Big Ten's side of things, when did it become more important to protect its interests than continue that sort of broad line?
Well, your last statement was right on, Nathan. I mean, at the end of the day, we needed to look at what's best for our 14 schools and the student athletes we serve in our institutions, and this was part of that decision process. Certainly, Alliance still exists because we still have cooperative relationships around certain things that we do, but it certainly impacted it, and so I can't speak to the trust yet. The fallout from this move is still fresh, and so what happens between now and the end of next week and the end of July will help determine that. But at this point in time, it's hard for me to project, that trust issue that you're talking about. I have a lot of friends and colleagues in the Pac-12. I was in the Pac-12. Conference expansion it's been in place for years. I mean, this is not new. I was on the committee that took it from the Big 8 to the Big 12. So, when you think about all the expansion over time, the industry gets over it. They adjust, and colleagues adjust once they find their own way. So we have a lot of volatility around a number of different issues that contribute to the challenge of that trust issue that you raised. But I think it'll get back to there at some point. It just takes time, if that answers your question.
All right, we'll go down to the front row, Joey Kaufman from the Columbus Dispatch.
Gene, you mentioned there were schools that reached out during this round of media rights negotiations and adding schools during the negotiation. What's the effect of that on the potential media rights payout that you could get, the financial element, and especially for schools like you guys, which are coming out of the COVID pandemic, which certainly hurt budgets and really felt the cost of relief?
Thank you, Joy. It's hard at this point in time to really project the total impact. All we know is now we're in the top three media markets in the country, in New York and Chicago and California. So Kevin, who's done a marvelous job with this process, will continue to have discussions with our media partners throughout this month, hopefully somewhere this fall, if not by the end of the month. We'll have something determined, but it's hard to project an actual number or quantify it at this point in time. We have a number of different media partners who are very interested in some type of relationship, and so we'll just have to see how that cascades over the next X number of weeks.
Rather than a specific number, your feelings is for help.
Oh, no question. Yeah, there'll be an upside. I'm sorry. Yeah, there definitely will be a significant upside. It's just hard to say what that will be, but it's major. You're picking up California and the contiguous areas. As the president shared, we have a large number of alums in that area, but as for the Big Ten Conference in our schools, that is the largest area for the Big Ten Conference. So when you think about all of our schools going out there, it's going to be major. And so really excited about that possibility, and we just have to wait and see what it comes out to be in the end.
Go up to the fourth row here, Clay Hall from SYS.
Gene, would you entertain the notion of other Pac-12 schools joining?
Clay, I really can't answer that question. We've just been so focused on these two. It's hard to really think about that. Just haven't, and we have a lot of work with these two to do prior to coming in August of 24. So, my head is really more about these two, what we need to do in the immediate future, and I'm not really thinking about all the speculation out there.
I'm assuming the structure of the conference will be determined in the next 2 years.
Right.
Divisions, et cetera.
Right.
How.
Yeah, that's another reason that how we will play, not just in football, but all the other sports as well. You think about women's volleyball, already the Big Ten was, one of the premier leagues in the country, now the premier league. And so we just have a number of different issues to work out, not just with football, but all the other sports.
Third row here, Spencer Holbrook, right in the row.
Steve, I think I want to ask you about, understanding the big score place in the Big Ten, and you said that you understand the value of the conference and you know your talent. You're talking a lot about the Big Ten's reasoning for doing this, but from Ohio State's point of view, why now for Ohio State, and how much does this affect your program moving forward in the short term, seasons that are coming into the season?
Yeah, great question, Spencer. For Ohio State, it frankly provides two other schools in unbelievable markets that frankly can carry some weight. At the end of the day, Ohio State has been a program for the Big Ten over the years that has been at the top of the pyramid in the Big Ten and carried a significant amount of weight in the value of the Big Ten. Now we have two others who can contribute to that weight, and really excited about that. That's no disparagement to any other school. That's just reality. That's, when you ask specifically about Ohio State, that's a part of it. But you have, as the president said, you have two institutions that have great history and tradition in everything, not just athletics, but academics. Culturally, they fit us. They just align with us. I happen to know both of the athletic directors there, Mike Bowen was at Cincinnati. I know how he operates and how he leads, and obviously many of you know Martin. So relationships matter in these things, and when you have two leaders like that, you feel comfortable that they're going to operate like we do at Ohio State and have the student athlete at the forefront of their core values and how they focus. So, and the same for our presidents out there.
I think that's right. We, I don't think everybody realizes sometimes that the Big Ten is in addition to a great athletic conference, it's a great academic conference. So we have a network, and I've known Carol Folt and also Gene Block, and they share those values, and that allows us a chance to network. I mean, I'm not sure if people appreciate it, but Big Ten's powerhouse in engineering. They produce most engineers in the country as a conference. And that's really important to the future of the country. You're adding two schools that are also outstanding in engineering, in law, in medicine. So the opportunities are huge for athletics, but they're also huge for us as a university.
Over here to the right, down to Mary.
Gene, you had said in the past that you saw a model coming or thought it would work with 130 or so schools. Is this another step towards that, you think?
Yeah, I hope, Dom, I haven't given up on that concept. I still think it's the way to go. The 130 FBS schools that provide 85 scholarships for football should create its own governance umbrella with a lot of different issues around that. Sure, this solidifies that opportunity, gives us a chance to have two other schools that think like us in that regard. So not sure where that's going to go, but yes, hopefully it moves that needle even more.
Does this deal at all affect the Rose Bowl down the road?
Yeah, so those discussions have to occur. Obviously, nothing changes with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten as entities in that regard. But I haven't been a part of any discussions with the Rose Bowl or heard anything from our commissioner about the Rose Bowl.
Front row, Tim May, out in the row.
Yeah, I got 100 questions, but I was asking one for both of you guys. With the SEC sitting there with 16 teams, with the Big Ten moving to 16 teams by 2024, how does this really change, you think, looking forward, the landscape nationally, that you either got to be in a big conference or you're going to be left behind to a certain extent? And I'm thinking of your alma mater, for example, Notre Dame. I mean, do you expect another reach out to Notre Dame? Obviously, they were close to joining the Big Ten many years ago and then backed away. But where does it go from here? And by the way, President Folt, I think, is an Akron native, USC president.
That's right. Yeah, again, it's hard to speculate that, Tim. I love my alma mater, except when we play them.
Yeah.
In any sport. But I've always felt they should be in a conference, and I hope that they're considering that. I don't know what a next step would be, but I've always shared that I hope they consider that opportunity, and I hope it's the Big Ten. But who knows? They've been operating the way they've been operating for a long time, so not sure what will happen there. But I forgot your second part.
But how does it affect things going forward, do you think? Because when you look at the blue bloods now, we
Right.
call the blue bloods, traditional blue bloods of major college football, for example, almost everybody is in one of these two major conferences,
Yeah.
with the exception maybe, you might throw Clemson or Florida State in there, but they were sort of Johnny-come-latelys. But
Well, the Big Ten
two
and the SEC.
conferences will have 32 of the teams involved.
Yes, the Big Ten and the SEC, frankly, separated themselves prior to this. Prior to Texas and Oklahoma, prior to USC and UCLA, our conferences had separated ourselves a long time ago. So this contributes to that separation, to your point. So we've always been the two premier conferences in the country for a lot of different reasons. And so this solidifies that even more. Who knows what the other schools and conferences will do in reaction? We just have to wait and see. But who knows? There could be another large conference that emerges as a result of these changes. So we just have to wait and see. Hard to speculate.
First, John, you're comfortable with this? I mean, obviously, with two conferences having 32 of the teams.
I'm
32 of the
comfortable
schools.
because we have an outstanding athletic director in Gene Smith And I can't imagine doing this without someone like that as a great partner, and also our commissioner, Kevin Warren. And then all the presidents and the athletic directors at the other universities, we all share the same ideas about the culture, the values, and the things that we're committed to. I was just walking in today with the athletic director, and we poked our heads in and looked at the guys that were working out. And, there's a lot of enthusiasm there, a lot of enthusiasm for Buckeye Nation, and it made me proud, actually. I mean, definitely.
We'll go to the third row, Doug Leary, Cleveland.com.
For President Johnson, why is this move good for Ohio State swimmers and tennis players and soccer players to add a conference opponent that's 2,000 miles away and they're going to have to play road games there? What's
Yeah.
good about that?
So a couple things on that. You're right. This is the logistics are going to need to be worked out. And again, when we think about the four guiding principles of why we do this, it's committed to the experience for the student athlete. Having been a failed swimmer growing up, never got a chance to swim in college. Look, USC and UCLA are storied programs. Pokey Watts, when she was coaching USC during my era, those are great swimming programs, great tennis programs too. So I think in terms of the Olympic sports and the sports that and we clearly care about all these sports, I think the opportunity to compete with people really are on top of the game is huge. The distance is going to be something we're going to have to work out. We're going to have to figure out a structure so that we make sure we optimize the opportunity to compete, but also minimize the challenge of the travel and the time.
Does any part of that go against the educational aspect of this, that you're playing a road game on a Tuesday in Los Angeles and trying to get back for class?
Yeah.
That's an issue?
It's been an issue since I was a student athlete. It will have been road games away for 2-3 days, having to come back and sitting with the optical networks final and circuits. It wasn't easy, but our student athletes are committed to the academic mission as well. So it is something we're sensitive about, and we'll continue to apply those same ideas about how we make sure the students can succeed in the classroom as well.
And this is all the same question, so I'll ask this to Gigi. Could this just be football? We know that football and the TV package is the driver of this. Why can't it just be football and let the Olympic sports be in conferences with schools nearby?
Yeah, that's a great question, Doug. But for this particular situation, USC and UCLA had to really think about if it was just football coming into the Big Ten, where would their Olympic sports play? Probably wouldn't be allowed to continue to play in the Pac-12. So at the end of the day, this made the most sense for them. But relative to your bigger model, who knows? That might be a model for the future that evolves over time. Because that's not a new thought process. It's been out there before. But for these particular schools, it makes sense. And actually, to your earlier question, the number of sports that will have to compete midweek will be minimized because that would be a major focus of ours. But really, when you think about it, there's very few sports that actually will be in that space. Many of our teams already go west. They compete against UCLA, USC, Washington, or Texas. So we got a lot of our Olympic sports that go out there already. So we have to be very strategic to make sure we don't put teams in that situation. Basketball will probably be the one that will be most challenging because of our television relationships. So I think the Olympic sports actually won't be as big as what we're thinking relative to that issue. And the fact that we're recruiting young people, and I have to compliment our coaches, who are just as competitive in the classroom as they are on the field or in the pool or whatever. We had 35 of our 36 teams with a 3.0 GPA or higher, 788 student athletes with a 3.0 GPA or higher. I mean, it's just, they are competitive. So I don't see this getting in the way. Frankly, and some of them, they'll be studying on that long plane and taking advantage of that time. So I just see a lot of different things that would be beneficial. I actually also see some of our student athletes who have never been to LA have an opportunity to go to the Guggenheim Museum. And there's so many different things that we have to be smart about in order to take advantage of this relationship and not damage their unbelievable effort in the classroom. And we will be. We'll be focused on that.
We'll go fourth row middle. Next, go to the other side.
Can you guys talk about the
say that. I knew you would do that. Yeah, obviously, as shared earlier, this contributes significantly to our ability to have a great financial relationship with our television partners. Again, I think it's the second largest market in the United States. So when Ohio State goes out to play USC, that will be phenomenal viewership with that contest. So I can't quantify your question, Jackie. I just know it will be significant. And obviously, Kevin Warren, along with his team, will share that information when we get to that point somewhere in late July or maybe even August. But it will be big.
It'll be big.
We got time for just a couple more. Jacob Melanson, I just want to make sure I didn't miss your hand. You're good? Okay. We'll go right here off the board.
Gene, as you guys, I guess for both of you, when you're casting the vote yesterday, because you've been around college athletics for a long time, Gene, you've been involved with both sides of those leagues. You know the tradition, you've always been a proponent of that. What were the emotions, the emotional part yesterday when that vote you cast is going to change college athletics permanently? Did you sense the significance of that historically, otherwise? What did you think when you cast the actual vote and said, this is what's going to happen?
I think we understood how game-changing this is. So it wasn't taken lightly. The presidents, we had a great discussion. At the end of the day, we think this is the best thing for our student athletes. And again, I think it's the best thing for the Big Ten. And as I said earlier, Big Ten is fabulous athletic conference. It's even greater academic and athletic conference. So this allows us to expand that reach, those connections. So think about every month we are on a call with all 14 presidents, now it'll be 16. So there'll be a lot of additional opportunities to connect, to enrich the opportunities for our faculty, students, and staff, as Athletic Director Smith mentioned. So yes, but we understood that this is big.
And I have to share, Austin, to your question, because really as athletic director, we're just listening, because the presidents are just having their conversation and ultimately move to their vote. But as I saw it coming to a positive vote, and even prior to that, all I could think about to some degree were my colleagues. It gets back to somebody else's question earlier, Nathan's question. Pat Chung is a very good friend of mine at Washington State. What does it mean to him? Talk about that trust factor, Nathan. And Bernard Muir at Stanford was a personal friend of mine. So I was mentally, as they're going through that conversation, I'm thinking about, okay, what's happening to my colleagues, Jen Cohen at Washington, who's just a phenomenal leader. So that's a very good question. It got a little personal for me in a moment of time as I was listening to their conversation.
We got time for two more question askers, so we'll go to Pete from right in the row.
For either one of you, I mean, today's July 1st, it's the first year anniversary of NIL, and we're talking about TV money and some bigger payouts for these schools. Are we headed towards a place where athletes get a share of this television money? Or is this fast tracking that? And are we headed towards collective bargaining or union invasion?
I think they're two separate issues. They are connected in a way. They will be connected, and there'll be things that we have to consider as the presidents and athletic directors. But I do see them as two separate issues.
Finally, we got number middle.
Gene, I'm assuming you've been in contact with your coaches about this. What's been their reaction? I mean, Ryan Day's mentor is Chip Kelly. I mean, just what's been the reaction of your coaches in terms of what this means for their teams?
Yeah, I've only talked to a few of them. I actually have a Zoom with them after this to talk more. We were obviously restricted as far as communication and those type of things. So I have a Zoom right after this with all the coaches. But I did talk to Ryan, and he's very supportive of this. He's excited about it. Chris Holtman, he's excited about it. So they see the vision here. They understand it, and they know, they're worried about what's in front of them. 24 is a long ways away for them, and so, but the prospect of those two schools in our league, they're really excited about.
Where's the beach volleyball court gonna be put in?
The Tim May Beach Volleyball
Yeah,
Court.
yeah.
That's, as soon as you write that check, we'll put it in place.
Gee, I'm trying to flip this and think of it in my head. You guys have talked about the Big Ten and how it has become clear that the SEC and the Big Ten have separated themselves. There are a lot of factors that went into that. But what if today was Ohio State and Michigan announcing they were joining the Pac-12, right? There's got to be an alternate universe where that's what this is, right? You could flip this. Hey, LA, that's cool. We're going to go join that conference. Why is it this? Why is it that you guys are staying here, the Big Ten is staying and adding? Why are we not in the world where Ohio State's leaving with a partner and going somebody else? Why do we get to this spot?
Well, the Big Ten to Ohio State and Michigan, the tradition, the history, the relationships, and what we've accomplished thus far is solid. Technically, we didn't have to do anything because what we're doing is good. And so even when we're talking about divisions or, we're 8 versus 9 or all those type of things, let's keep in mind, we're pretty solid. The people, some of you were here when we started the Big Ten Network, and we didn't have full coverage in Ohio. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember that week leading up to that game, and there was parts of Ohio that didn't have the game on? Oh, my goodness. So thank goodness social media wasn't big at that particular time. But the reality is the Big Ten is solid. So the only time in my tenure that I ever had that thought in my head was during the pandemic when we couldn't play. That's the only time that I talked to the boss about, maybe we just go independent. My emotions were driving me more than my, rational thinking. But the Big Ten's solid, Doug. It's great. And so we're a place where schools want to be. And so bringing them in strengthens the Big Ten for all the reasons we talked about. And there's no reason for, in my view, for Team Up North or us or Wisconsin or anybody to think about leaving something that is very strong. We just made it stronger. And so I get excited about the possibility in 24. But to your question, in my 17 and a half years here, there's only been one time we've thought about, okay, let's go independent and see if we can get our own deal and do that world. So.
Can I follow up on that just for a minute?
That last year, we only seconds.
Well, and you weren't alone. But I want to come back and say something about the what's happened. This was something UCLA and USC approached us. And as our athletic director said, this is a really solid, stellar conference. It's something also, I want to step back for a minute and think about where the future of the country is going. We know a lot about Intel investing in Central Ohio, in Silicon Heartland. It is really important for the future of the country that the Midwest step up and continue to be an innovative engine. And when you think about the universities that are in the Big Ten, this is going to help strengthen the connections to the West Coast, the East Coast, and I think that this is our time in the Midwest to continue to build on that excellence and educate students that are going to be required for the future of the country, especially if Intel and the semiconductor industry is going to reshore, and they're going to reshore here in Ohio. So that's, I think, the reason we stay. We've got the conference. They want to join us. We're excited about that opportunity.